Hi, everyone. Welcome in. We have a lot of people registered for the session today, so we're going to go ahead and give everyone a few more minutes to join, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Kelly, I see you have started the recording. Thank you very much for that. Good afternoon. I am Jennifer Courtney, your Customer Success Manager with SK Soft. Thank you for joining us today. We also have Chuck Schrader, Tina Ash, and our co-founder, Tim Kahn, on the line. They'll be covering off on the latest enhancements in our 12.3 release. I'll start with Chuck. He'll be covering off on global update items, reconciliation, and settlements. Chuck, could you do a quick introduction, please?
Hi there. Yeah, I am Chuck Schrader, and I am a senior solution architect here at SK Soft.
Thanks, Chuck. Tina will be covering off on payments. And Tina, would you mind doing a quick introduction, please?
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, everybody. My name is Tina Ash. I am a solution architect and product manager here at SK Soft.
Thanks, Tina. Tim Kahn will be providing Bank Fabric updates. Tim, can you please introduce yourself?
Be glad to. It's great to be here. CTO of SK Global, one of the original founders, and leading the Bank Fabric team. Be happy to show you the things that are coming in Bank Fabric.
Great. Thanks, Tim. We're excited to host 3 additional webinars over the next few weeks and hope you can join us. After today's session, the next one will be on May the 6th, covering payment remittance automation, followed by May the 13th with P-card and credit card reconciliation. And on May the 20th, we will showcase payment factory automation, customer reimbursement, and bank-to-bank transfer. During today's presentation, we will showcase the enhancements to the highlighted modules. If you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat and we will address them at the end of the session. We will also send out a link to the recording of today's session following later today. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll turn it over to Chuck.
Thank you. Let me grab the share here so we can switch over to I think you'll have to stop sharing, Jennifer.
There you go.
Okay. Let me know if you can see D365.
Yes.
There we go. So let me back up a screen here. So yeah, we're going to go over the 12.3 features that were added. These are some of the key ones. As always, when we publish a new release, if you go to release notes, you can see in the release notes, and you can see this from any version. So if you go to your help and you go to the Treasury Automation help and stand in D365 F&O, you'll see a button there for release notes, or a topic there for release notes. You can click on that and see the release notes, and you can see all the details of everything that's going to be in the release. As soon as a build is published, those release notes are there. And again, even if you're on an older version, you can go to the release notes and see the newer release notes. Anything red in the release notes is a enhancement, so you can especially pay attention to those. Anything that's not red or other fixes that we put in that build. But again, we're going to highlight some of the key ones that some of those came from actually other webinars we've done in the past, or from direct requests from partners and customers. So go through some kind of global ones, high level ones first. The reg key, refresh legal entities, kind of small change, but one that caused a fair amount of support calls for us. And really, we can show it here real quick. I kind of flip back and forth between the demo and live session here. So this is the older once. This was 12.2. So this is the previous version. When you changed a unlocking key, you got your new unlocking key for the year, then you'd have to click refresh legal entities to push that out to a bunch of other legal entities. There's really no reason you would ever want a new unlocking key in one legal entity and not in all the legal entities. And when we forget to click that refresh legal entities, it would just cause some issues where all the environments weren't, all of the legal entities were not in sync. So now in the newer version, that button just goes away. So when you put a new key in, once it tells you that it is a valid key, there's no refresh legal entities down here anymore. The new unlocking key automatically populates to any legal entity where treasury automation is configured. While I'm on this screen, I'll point out another little piece here. Again, some of these were kind of driven by support tickets. The hotfix query. The hotfix query is meant for when we're talking to support, and let's say you get a hotfix for something, and your technical team says they put it into the build, and that build should be, in your test system or in your production system or whatever. So for either you or us to make sure that it's there, we're going to update some things behind the scenes that'll update that hotfix query so that we will be able to tell if a specific hotfix was put into a given environment or not. Again, both for our customers and for our support, that should help to make sure that there wasn't maybe a build that wasn't deployed or a hotfix that wasn't put into a build properly. So you'll be able to tell if there is a given hotfix in a particular environment. And again, that hotfix is kind of a generic term. It's not always an issue fix. Sometimes even newer, maybe a feature request that we did for someone would get delivered as a hotfix. So you'd be able to see if those were put in. If we go back to the PowerPoint here, remove batch jobs from Treasury Automation Suite parameters. This was an issue that was kind of just inconsistent, that we try to make it more consistent. In most places, the batch jobs are addressed in communications. And we had some places where those batch jobs were directly referenced in Treasury Automation parameters and Treasury Automation bank accounts. So it made it very difficult to move those entities around. So if you were trying to move those around via data entities, they would oftentimes get moved around, and you'd have a batch that was kind of pointing off into space, not pointing to a real batch job. So again, we took those out of there, and now all the batch jobs are in communications, and everything else should just point to a communication ID. Again, wasn't necessarily a big enhancement for usability, but when you were in those initial stages trying to move things around, those batch jobs in those other forms kind of got in the way. We'll go to reconciliation and settlement. We kind of have our products divided in value streams. So reconciliation and settlement is one value stream. We have a payments value stream. So if you see us kind of dividing things up that way, that is why it's how we kind of address things internally. So on the reconciliation and settlement side, on the layout of the transaction reconciliation screen, there, again, I'll kind of flip back over to the environment. Oops. There we go. So in the transaction reconciliation screen, there is a place at the bottom of the screen to enter the ledger transactions. And let me see if we can pull one up here. Pull one up that's got some transactions in it. So in this transaction screen, we had a lot of customers that were entering a lot of transactions down here. Maybe they're doing customer settlements or something else down here where they have a lot of ledger transactions. It really was very confined to just like 2 rows or 3 rows down in this new journal section. Now it can handle a lot more rows in that section. And for those that are, again, doing more robust things down here, like especially customer settlements, And again, especially if you have some extra screens, sections open here, it just allows you to be more efficient with not having as much scrolling back and forth to get that done. Import and view check images in ARE settlement. So in ARE settlement, we've always had a field that you could map to an image identifier. That image identifier could be imported, but basically you had to have a customization to do anything with it. So now the image identifier comes in. If there's a corresponding image sitting out in the ARES file storage area, there's a new subfolder called images. If you have the check image sitting out there and you're on the payment line or on a payment with error line or on the settlement in the workbench, you can now click and view those images. We have, for some banks, already kind of converted that, where we read the file from the bank and put the images in that folder. For other banks that we haven't done that for, there would be a change to try to get those images in the correct format in that folder, or you could put them in there yourself. But if the images are in the image folder, there's now buttons to display them in the payments grid, in the errors grid, in the settlements grid, and even in the customer transactions for anything that's a payment. The one piece I'll show you on this, it did affect some other processing as well that will affect people not using images. It's a pretty subtle change, but we will just point it out. So if we go to process e-settlements and we go to the workbench and settlements, there's now a button called settlement options. Some of these options used to just be kind of out here strung out. For one, it was getting very long and you would get the 3 dots out here to have to see these options. Now that we have images and the next feature I'm going to talk about, we put these under settlement options. So now some of these buttons are here. So like settle oldest due date. If you get to the new version, you can't find it. It's under settlement options. Again, we're hoping that's pretty intuitive, but that button used to be kind of hanging out on its own out here, and log was out here as well. The next option was on the slide there, was payment remit for ARE settlement. So you may or may not know that a couple versions ago, we introduced something called payment remit automation for bank rec. What that means is if you have electronic payments coming in on your bank statement, and you have a corresponding remit advice that came into your inbox, we can now tie those together electronically upon import of the bank statement. So the scenario would be a customer of yours sends you a payment, maybe an ACH payment to your bank. They also send you a remit advice that goes to remit@sksoft.com. We can now direct that inbox to an OCR engine. The OCR engine turns that into data. So when the bank statement comes in, it looks and sees if there is a corresponding remit advice that's been digitized and tries to settle that transaction for you. Again, that was in the bank rec process previously. It's been there for a few versions now. We have that same thing now with ARE settlement. If you've attended weekly demos, or if you've seen the remit text analysis where I cut and paste things into that, or if you use that yourself on a daily basis, remit text where you cut and paste, that still works. But if that was something that was coming into your inbox and now your bank is including those electronic payments in your lockbox file, when that lockbox file comes in, it could look and see if there's any scanned data that matches it up and link to that automatically and basically do that cut and paste for you automatically behind the scenes and analyze that. So try to make that process more efficient. Again, it was in bank rec for a couple versions now, not probably real well known yet, but now that same process has been added to ARE settlement. So bank sends your electronic payments in on your lockbox. Many banks do that now. They include those with the checks. You have a remit advice in your inbox. The inbox is directed to an OCR engine, turns it into data. At lockbox import, it combines those two things together. for you. So let me go back to slides here, and I think that was the end of that slide. And now Tina is going to cover some payment automation. You need me to stop sharing, Tina, so you can? Tina, you're on mute if you're talking.
Yes, if you could stop sharing.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, sorry. Hopefully you can see my screen. Thank you, Chuck. So Chuck covered the upgrades for the global upgrades as well as reconciliation settlement. And so now I'm going to walk you through our payments, what we call our payments automation release. Okay, so the first one is we've added a new parameter on vendor remittance emails. So previously, when multiple payments to the same vendor were existing in the same file, they were consolidated into a single email. But now you can choose if you want them to remain consolidated, which will be the default, or you can have them split out. So I'll show you that parameter in just 1 second. So by default, this will be off, the separate emails by payment reference. If you enable it, there will be an email per payment reference. If it stays off, they will be consolidated like they are today. Okay. This duplicate voucher validation, this is one we've received a lot of support tickets on, but we've introduced a safeguard, and this exists across all of our EFT family to catch duplicate voucher numbers in a payment journal. So this is going to include AP EFT Plus, Direct Debit, customer reimbursements, and bank-to-bank transfers. And this is where you had the same voucher number used in multiple lines of a journal. Microsoft would not post that voucher or post that journal. This was a painful issue because Simulate Posting didn't flag it in the beginning. And so a lot of people found out about it at the end of the process. And so now you're going to be stopped before the file is created, which will save you a lot of that cleanup time on that piece. The update exchange rate on journals based on the inbound acknowledgement file. So if your bank can return an inbound acknowledgement file that includes exchange rates and amounts, we can now update the payment journal with that information before posting that journal. So this will ensure that your realized gain loss calculations are based on the actual bank rate, and it'll improve accuracy and streamline reconciliations. Send later, not consolidated. This was, as it says, also added to our direct debit. But previously, when you chose send later to transfer your journals into Treasury Automation Suite, it always consolidated the journals into one file. So now we have a parameter, and I'll show this one as well. Send later non-consolidated processing. And if you enable this, it will not consolidate those. So each send later that you transferred, or each journal that you transfer over, will create its own separate file. By default, this parameter will be off, so behavior will remain as it is today. But if you don't want it consolidated, you can just simply turn this parameter on, and it'll be one file per journal. Okay. So that's the AP EFT. And we'll have a couple more, at least one more added to AP EFT, but also direct debit here. So the first one is we have a link to the customer eBanking record. So in a previous release, we added a link from our vendor bank account to the vendor eBanking record, just to make it easier to get to that. In this release, we've added that same functionality for customers. So go into my customer here. And if I click on my bank accounts, this here, I can click eBanking record. And it'll open that customer eBanking record, where from here I can look at my payment specifications or my emails or make any updates or changes that I need to. This validation errors move to a new journal. So if you're using either AP EFT or direct debit, you're familiar with the validate AP EFT, or in this case, validate direct debit. And there'll be validation errors that could be thrown that will prevent you from proceeding. So now we have a parameter that when this is enabled, it will move all of those validation errors to a new journal, which will allow you to get the good payments sent immediately, and any of those errors, they'll give you time to work through those. So that is item AP EFT. We have the same thing in direct debit. If I can find it, sorry. Transfer errors to a new journal. And what this will do is when I run that validation, it will go ahead and transfer those to a new journal. If you're using our payment factory automation, either for AP or our one that's going to be released in our 12.3 for the customer payments, and you have this turned on, when you come in, if there's any errors, it'll validate all of the good ones. They'll be in one journal, and anything with errors will be in a separate journal. So you can get that better automation. And that brings us to PFA, Payment Factory Automation. So we have expanded our Payment Factory automation capabilities. So we already had the automation of vendor payment proposals, but now we can also support the customer payment proposal automation as well. This will also include creating customer payment journals based off your defined rules using our new functionality in our AR switchboard external bank setup. So kind of streamline and automate that process. If you would like a deeper dive on Payment Factory automation, as Jennifer mentioned in the beginning, on May 20th, we'll have a webinar where we walk through PFA. We're also going to walk through customer reimbursements and bank-to-bank transfers at that time. Customer reimbursements, our next piece here. We have enabled we have enabled the standard D365 generate payments functionality, which will allow you to print in-house checks as a payment method for customer reimbursements. So this means you can take advantage of our payment proposal process for customer reimbursements that meet all that selected criteria, and you can still use in-house printed checks. And last on customer reimbursements are our remittance emails. So actually this came up in a previous webinar, maybe last year, where we were showcasing customer reimbursements. And based on the feedback from that webinar, we have added remittance emails to our customer reimbursement. So thank you all for your input on that. That functionality is added to this upcoming release. And the last one on my list today is P-Card. So in 11.9, we rolled out the foundation for our P-Card module, which will enables expense imports and image captures. And in this 12.3 release, we're delivering two major additions. The first one is accruals, and these are for transactions that are not yet approved. They can now be accrued using a standard reversing journal. So you can import that file in, select your posting date and your reversing date, and it will create that standard D365 reversing journal for you. And reconciliation. So this will allow you to match those P-card transactions against your credit card statement to identify any discrepancies with ease. So you'll have a statement that you import in that's not going against a bank account in D365, and it'll easily identify any discrepancies between what you've recorded and what the bank says or the credit card says that you should have recorded. For a full demo or for a deeper dive into our P-card, as well as our credit card reconciliation module, please join us for our May 13th webinar, where we'll be going over those. Okay. That is it for me. I will pass it over to Tim, who's going to go over Bank Fabric update.
Thanks, Tina. Let me share my screen. Okay, everybody can see my screen, Tina?
I can, yes.
Perfect. So this is going to give you an update of where we're at with Bank Fabric. Many of you may never kind of see Bank Fabric because it's the connectivity engine that provides all the great functionality that Tina and Chuck have been discussing. Some of you, depending on your role, are more involved with Bank Fabric. So this will cover both entities. So as you're aware, this is the engine. It replaced our File Hub solution, and it's the future of our connectivity platform. Going forward, we'll be connecting to other entities other than just ERPs like Dynamics 365 or BC, other TMSs. We support many protocols, as you're aware. Many of you, of course, probably do ACH and wire through SFTP, maybe some even through APIs. So that's all available in Bank Fabric. And then the wide, extensible number of formats that we support, our huge library of about 2,800, 3,000 payment methods around the world. So that's kind of the basis of all of Bank Fabric. So as well as that, we have, get here. Most of you may have been to the website, the bank, the SKSoft website. In that website, there's a Bank Fabric section, and there's a Bank Fabric status. Some of you may have been here or not, but on that status, it shows our APIs that are running for Bank Fabric when they're running and whether they're up or down, which they're always up. And then it shows a history of releases as well. So this can tell you when Bank Fabric itself was updated. This corresponds these updates don't necessarily correspond directly with the releases you saw today, 12.2 or 12.3. They have their own independent life cycle. But from here, any more details that you want to see, you can go through the portal. And I assume some of you or most of you have seen our new portal. And you log into that portal, it's available at the top of the website. But when you log in there under resources, you can go to downloads and information. That allows you to see the release notes. And here I've selected the platform Bank Fabric. So here you see the details of the Bank Fabric release notes. Again, if you selected D365 F&O, you'd see the release notes here. Chuck referred to them. They're available inside TAS in D365, but they're also here available to you on the customer portal. Again, that's under this downloads and information. So let's continue here on the slideshow, and we'll talk about some enhancements that are available in Bank Fabric. We've added what are multiple account admins. In Bank Fabric, you may have been aware that when you come into Bank Fabric, you have an account contact and account admins. The account admin's role is very important in that they're the ones that can assign user permissions. Only they can do that. Previously, we only allowed one. And now with this the latest release, you can have as many account admins as you like. And they can be any individual with any email address that can log in. We support effective dates, so you can say that someone's going to be available to be an admin, in the month of June because someone else is going to not be available. You can set the effective date of when they're available as an admin. You can set the date in which they expire. So you could have a temporary person come in and be an admin for a while and set them up that way. And you set them as active. And then with that regard, then those individuals that are account admins now can go to the user table and configure your users for Bank Fabric's use. So those are multiple account admins. Another thing you may have seen if you've been using and configuring in Bank Fabric is a new option called Bank and X connection names. We're going to be moving to a usage-based model for licensing of Bank Fabric and the whole TAS solution coming up in the next number of months. And to do that, we want to keep capture of how many connections you have, how many different banks are you integrated with. So to do that, we've added that connection piece. You'll notice if you come into communications now, you'll see there's a new column called Bank X Connection. And what this is identifying this particular inbound APFT, outbound APFT, or whatever it might be, with a particular bank. And this helps us identify which banks you're using. So where do these come from? These are derived when you set up, and again, this is on the technical side, when someone sets up an SFTP connection, when you set that up, or an API connection, you come in here and identify the bank that's associated with. So you set up a connection to Bank of America, you would enter Bank of America here. You come into Wells Fargo and you'd set up a Wells Fargo connection here. Once that's done, then those are exposed over here under communications of the various banks that you're connected to. Again, if you have things set up now, no worries. This will be something that'll be introduced as you edit or modify any of your transmission setups. As Tina mentioned, P-card transactions and P-card statements are available in Bank Fabric in terms of editing them. So coming in here to the menu in Bank Fabric, to set up under formats, you'll now see P-card transactions and P-card statements. This is now setting up the format that's related. It's a very straightforward setup. You just simply come in and set up what kind of format it is and reference the different setup pieces for it. So this is all done now very easily in Bank Fabric for both the statements and the transactions. In the user permissions, we've added a couple of options for both managing event logs and usage tracking. Let's go back to those user setups. Coming into users, there's some new options here. Usage tracking, again, this is going to be more available. There's a screen that'll be available to show your usage in Bank Fabric. And by checking this box, this individual would have access to be able to see that. And then event logs. Previously, you could maybe see event log. The administrator could see an event log off of the account page. But now you can set up individual users who would have availability to go to different environments and see the event logs available under those particular environments once you've selected it here in user permissions. We now have expanded the number of event logs you can see. I believe before it was 5,000 or 2,000. Now it's up to 20,000 records. Those of you that have used the event log know that there's very many records there, provide a lot of very valuable information. Another thing you'll notice that's being introduced is these icons to the right in the actions area. This is where we're beginning to introduce.
Tim,
Yeah.
I don't think people are just seeing your the PowerPoint. I don't know if you're showing something else. There's a lot of comments saying they're not seeing the Bank Fabric UI. Just to clarify, if you're just showing the presentation, or if you're showing Bank Fabric as well.
Okay, so you're not seeing Bank Fabric?
No.
All right, so let me stop sharing and share again.
Okay, I can see it, so hopefully, I know we'll get a lot of comments on that, so hopefully everybody else is good.
Very sorry. Clearly I'm a rookie at this. So, all right, so what I was going to show now is these icons that allow you to see when something was added, edited, or deleted and who did it. So this is very valuable. Again, you can see it here under users. Another nice feature here to be able to see when it was created, when it was modified, and by whom it was modified. So, and this is appearing on more and more screens as you go through the application. This is a technical thing. We increased the RSA key bits to 4096. Nothing terribly flashy about that. The other thing, those of you that use Bank Fabric Library, if you go there to get DLLs, if you're using FileHub, which I hope that many people are not anymore, but we're adding more and more library pieces there. So we have the file formats library that you all probably know about. There will be bank reconciliation formats there, cash application formats, and then APIs as well. As we add APIs, This will allow you to be able to observe not only the file formats that we have, what banks we support, what payment methods, but also the reconciliation and Cash App formats. More and more library entries will be presented there. So that's what I have. That wraps up for this Bank Fabric recap of what you might see new there. Okay.
Then Chuck and Tina.
Yep, there's a couple questions in chat. I was answering some of those offline here, but some common questions is, are we going to send a recording out after this? Jennifer, Kelly, I assume we are.
Yeah.
That's why we're recording. Okay. So yes, there's another question on the PowerPoint. So we can include that PowerPoint as well. So that'll we can include that with the recording. Or there's, I guess, maybe multiple PowerPoints there. There was a question on upgrade.
Just one
Go
second.
ahead. Yeah.
Chuck, if anybody has any questions while Chuck is going over that one, if you guys just want to put them in the chat and we'll get to them. Yeah.
Okay.
Just so.
And I'll take one more on here yet. Saying, hey, I'm on a much older version than 12.2 or 12.3 is what we're showing now. So how does that work? Well, really back to the release notes. In the release notes, I mean, every single version, there are some list of features and a list of basically issue fixes that are in there. Release notes goes through those in detail. If you kind of want to just see the big items or the bigger items, again, review the red items in the release notes. And the release notes document is written kind of newest to oldest. So you could start at the newest version, which is 12.3, or will be here as soon as we publish in another couple of days. I guess maybe next week. But very soon 12.3 will be published. Once you see that published, then you will see the updated release notes out there as well. And again, you can just start with 12.3, and if you're on 10. Whatever, you can just read from 12.3 down to 10. Whatever and see everything that happened in between. When you install the new version, it's going to ask you to want to upgrade, and you click yes, or basically you have to upgrade if you install the new version. So you install it, it upgrades, and of course you do that in a test environment first. Make sure that all of your day-to-day processes still work, and then put it in a production process. So hopefully I tackled a couple of the common ones there. The upgrade process itself, there's a question on whether it runs entity by entity. The upgrade process should run for all legal entities where treasury automation is configured. So who's ever doing the install in a particular environment, one of the things they should do right away is just go into any treasury automation screen as soon as the upgrade is complete. Go into a treasury automation screen. Hopefully you're doing that like at night, so it can kick off and run that whole upgrade process on that system. Then next morning when people come in, they should not get that upgrade message, or that message that the upgrade is still in progress. So again, ideally you would be installing new versions later in the evening. Whoever installs it would be going into some treasury automation screen just to kick off that upgrade process. It does run in a batch mode, so you won't get that message every so often where it says, do you want to keep waiting or not? That used to happen that way. So now you don't have to keep clicking the wait message. It does run kind of in a batch mode, but it is still, you don't want to like refresh that screen or whatever that kicked off that process. It's still tied to that screen. So if you get that, there is a way to restart it. But the preference is that you would let it run all the way through for all the legal entities on the first try, and you wouldn't have to do that per legal entity.
Chuck, I just want to tell you this. So we told you guys we have this series, or we told you all we have this series of these webinars, but every Wednesday we do have a live demo for bank reconciliation, credit card advantage, and ePay, I believe, Chuck.
ARE settlement, it's ARE
settlement,
credit card, and ePay, or yeah, credit card advantage and ePay, right?
And
then
then
every Thursday
we do AP EFT, positive pay, and bank reconciliation. And so I know somebody said that they're in CRP, and they haven't been introduced. So yes, I think coming to the webinars as well as one of those week, you don't have to go every week. They're but Wednesday or Thursday, or Wednesday and Thursday, they're different. Coming to those standing or those live demos would be helpful. So that way.
Yeah, that's an important point. We've had sent those links out where somebody will sign up for multiple weeks in a row. It's the same demo every week, but Wednesday is more the Cash App and receiving payments, and Thursday. So Wednesday and Thursday are different, but week to week, every Wednesday, it's the same demo. So if you sign up for those, don't sign up for a bunch of weeks in a row because you'll see the same thing week after week. Kelly, can we include that link when we send out or Jennifer, can we include that link when we send out the recording as well?
Absolutely. I can
Okay.
also put the link in the chat for this,
Okay.
but I'll follow up with that as well.
Okay. I'm just kind of scanning quickly through. If you have your hand up, maybe you could just put it in chat instead. I see a couple of those.
Chuck, there was a question about usage pricing. I answered it individually, but that will be available upon contract renewal period. It would not just automatically be introduced. So when that comes on board.
Okay.
There is a question about document on setup. And Chuck kind of mentioned the help a bit. Let me go ahead and share my screen really fast. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. So Chuck did kind of mention the help and the release notes, but I'm not sure if he showed you how to access that. So if you click the question mark and then help, and then if you're on one of our screens, you'll see two menu options come up, one for the general, that'll take you to the overview page, and then one that'll take you to the specific form you're on. So I can just click here. And then the overview section's kind of an overview of the modules and what you have to do. In the reference, there's like a field, we'll show you what, each field on each form is. That's kind of how it's laid out. So for somebody asking about the documentation, that's how you access it. It's embedded. And then since Chuck mentioned it earlier, there's the release notes, and then you can click there and it'll show you the detailed release notes.
Do you know
Hopefully.
why you're there if you want to open one of those overviews?
You have a preference? I'll go to bank record.
Sure, that's fine. Just this, I just wanted to point out that there. So in those at overview section, so let's say that you have a bank set up to do something. Now you want to add one more bank to do that. You want to make sure you kind of get all the steps. The setup overview. Each of those sections has a setup overview and a process overview. It's not meant to be like a training from scratch, but if you're kind of familiar with how to do it and you just want to make sure you don't miss any of the steps, the setup overview will walk you through, yep, these are the screens you need to go through to get this kind of module working. And then the process overview is generally like the happy path sort of scenario through that. So again, it's not meant to be kind of a real robust training, but if you're pretty familiar with it already, and just don't want to miss any steps when you set up a new bank account, for instance, the setup overview would help you walk through that.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, it's just saying, did we miss any questions that were asked along the way here? And again, if you look through the release notes, again, this will be published. It was our current target next week, Tim. So when this gets published, you look at release notes, you'll see a lot of other enhancements as well. We try to kind of pull out the bigger ones that either were directed by some people at previous webinars or ones that we had a lot of support requests about. But there are many other enhancements as well. There is quite a bit of change to the supply chain finance module. We don't have a ton of users on that yet, so we didn't include that here. But if you use that or are thinking about using supply chain finance, there was quite a bit of improvement to that over the last release as well.
Question about how are the rules pushed? There is, and maybe we can provide the link to this as well, but there is a web page that if you follow, it'll tell you when there is a new release coming out. And then we don't push the releases, you have to request them. So
Chuck, Marlene had a question about credit and collection. If we have any support for credit and collection.
We don't do anything in the credit and collection module itself. So we don't have any webinar specifically on that. Anything to do with receiving incoming payments, we cover really on our Wednesday demo. So it's our ARE settlement and our credit card solutions. So those are the only kind of receiving cash. They're not directly tied into credit and collections though. Tim, do you know, there's a comment about following following the page on release updates? I followed that page and I've gotten updates before, but do we know if there's been issues in the past with?
I have not heard that. We could talk to Nate about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll take that one. Jennifer asked a question about following that page and not getting the updates for it. I don't know if that's been an overall problem. If so, let us know. But Jennifer will look into that and see if there are ones that are not getting the updates if they're not being published for some reason.
and then maybe I think Jennifer, if you could maybe provide your email, then maybe that could give them a place to start to kind of see if there's a way for them, yeah, to look into that.
So there was a question from Jordan on settlement of customer and vendor bank transactions in bank reconciliation. So yes, we've had for quite some time, we've had a pretty robust customer settlement. It not only can log it to the right customer, but settle transactions as well. There's rules in the mapping and in the setup that you can use to settle customer settlements in the customer settlement screen as part of that payment remit automation. And you'll see that if you come next week, you'll see that if your payments are coming in bank rec, now we have a screen called process customer settlements, where this takes just the customer settlements out of bank rec. It shows you what did settle automatically and allows you to then settle those. So you don't need to be fully in the bank rec process. Most of our customers do not want their cash application people to be fully in the bank rec, nor do they want bank rec people to be fully settling or trying to settle customer payments. So our process customer settlement screen, even if you're not using the OCR scanning, it can separate the customer payments out of bank rec and to a different screen where you can assign that screen. The nice piece about that is it's really just a view into the bank rec process. So Cash App people can do their thing and apply all the cash and settle things. Again, whatever doesn't settle automatically on the import with the rules. And then once they clear or once they post those payments, the bank rec clears at the same time. So we don't have to go back in bank rec and match to it. It's really doing both jobs at the same time. Is there a question about parameter to control defaulting to journal and bank dimensions for customers? So we should be able to control dimensions and through the rules. So I guess maybe we'd have to follow up with support with that particular one. Anish sent that one in. I guess, there are more specifics about that scenario, but and not looking too far forward, but in our next release, they'll be addressing financial tags as well as dimensions, being able to add those to those journal entries as well. One of changes that you can do now is that in the past, if you did customer settlements in BankRec, it was always going to general journals. Now you can redirect those to customer journals instead. So if you want those to go to customer journals instead of general journals, you can redirect the customer transactions that are generated in the BankRec process through those customer rules to their to a different customer journal. Someone does not have access to the setup.
Yeah, but they we might want to look at that one because it looks like Joe logged in using his portal credentials. If you click that link,
Oh.
I get the same result. So maybe we just need to update the portal.
Yeah. So yeah, Tim, I think you made that link on there, so we'll bring that one back. That link to the release notes, if people are signed in with their portal credentials, not Windows credentials, we might need to free up the permissions on that a little bit.
So it's not just the release notes. It is the
Manula.
SK soft help guide. Yeah, if you click on
Oh.
it,
Okay.
it's got a lot of other things missing as well.
Okay. All right.
I think Joel was maybe asking, should we add the Manula link off the customer portal? We do not have access to that help file off the portal, so I think that could be a very good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, because this link looks, I don't know if you guys clicked on that. Yeah, both we can take it. It just looks a little different because the version says SK Global 2.0.
So along with the customer settlements, there was a question around doing vendor settlements. In the US, that is much less requested. In the EU, where there's a lot more direct debits occurring, that is more requested, where vendors are pulling directly out of your account. So to automate that as well. That is a roadmap item. I don't have a specific date for that. But yes, we have a plan to do vendor settlements as well. I'm not sure again where that was at on the plan, but that has been brought up before. Let me see if any new ones come in. Tina, do you know, did the change to allow customer journals go in 12.3 or 12.2? I didn't
Which
see it.
one?
Allow customer journals versus general journals. I'm not sure if that went in the current version, but it'd either be 12.3 or 12.2.
It's 12.2. It's in 12.2.
Okay, so it was in the version that came out like last year, what, Christmas or January last year?
Like November, December last year. Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit back, but so that's published. And again, if you're going to go to a new version, no, there's going to be a new version here within weeks. It's in final testing now, so I guess the projected date would be early May for that to be published. Can you do workflow? Yes, that is in there as well. So in the past, if you're on a version that's older than 12.2 or 12.1, if you do journals at import, you could just choose auto post or don't auto post. And if you did journals at the bottom of that transaction reconciliation screen in BankRec, they just always posted. Now, in both places, you can control separately whether you want those to just create the journal, to create an auto post, or to create and submit to workflow, which is kind of between the two. So that is all in that, at least in 12.2, if not in 12.1. So, but again, if you're thinking of upgrading, I would wait a couple weeks and ask for the newer release. Yep. So seeing if they were all any other ones that we missed. If we missed yours, just repeat it at the bottom. I'm looking through the list here, and I think we got most of them. and some good questions. So thank you. And we are about at time. So if Kelly or Jennifer, you'll get an email from one of those. I expect if they have questions or follow-ups or want to see more about something, they would just respond back to that thread or to the sales desk.
Absolutely, that's correct. This is Jennifer. You can, believe Kelly, the recording will come out from my email address, and you're welcome to respond there with any additional questions that you might have. And we appreciate your time this afternoon and look forward to having you attend one of the weekly webinars that are coming up through May.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.